buffalo nickel is more than just a 5-cent piece. It is a window into America's soul. Designed by James Earl Fraser, this coin captures the raw spirit of the frontier with its striking images of a Native American chief and a powerful bison. But beneath its beautiful exterior lies a world of mystery, rarity, and intrigue. From minting errors that created priceless treasures to dramatic stories of lost coins rediscovered after decades, the buffalo nickel has captivated collectors for over a century. In this video, we will explore its rich history, the artistry behind its creation, the technical challenges that made some issues incredibly scarce, and the extraordinary tales of provenance that have turned humble nickels into fortunes. Join us as we uncover the secrets of one of America's most beloved coins. Imagine holding a small, unassuming 5-cent coin in your palm. It is worn, perhaps, the details softened by decades of handling, but the image is unmistakable. A stoic, proud profile of a Native American chief dominates one side, while the reverse features a powerful, hump-backed bison, the very symbol of the American frontier. This is the buffalo nickel, and the year is 1923. To truly understand this piece of copper-nickel alloy, we have to do more than just look at its face value. We have to transport ourselves back to the America of 1923, a nation in the midst of a dizzying, paradoxical decade, grappling with newfound prosperity, profound social change, and the lingering shadows of a world war. The buffalo nickel in your hand is not just currency. It is a tangible artifact of a nation trying to define its own identity on the global stage. The year 1923 was a year of transition and turmoil, a pivotal moment in what we now romanticize as the Roaring Twenties. The world was still reeling from the aftereffects of World War I. While the war had ended over 4 years prior, its economic and political consequences were far from settled. In the United States, the brief, sharp recession of 1920 and 1921 had given way to a spectacular boom. By 1923, the American economy was roaring back to life. The gross national product had surged by a remarkable 16% between 1921 and 1922, and unemployment had plummeted to a near-unheard-of low of 2%. This was a time of unprecedented consumer confidence and spending. The average manufacturing worker was taking home a record $22 per week, and Americans were eager to make up for years of wartime deprivation. Construction boomed, with nearly 900,000 new homes built annually, and the automobile was no longer a luxury but a necessity, transforming the American landscape and way of life. This economic prosperity meant that the 5-cent piece was a vital part of the everyday worker's purchasing power, a tool for buying a newspaper, a loaf of bread, or a ride on the new electric streetcars. However, this economic boom was paired with a deep social and political conservatism. The Jazz Age was just beginning, and young Americans were challenging Victorian morals, as symbolized by the new concept of dating. But this liberalization sparked a fierce reactionary backlash. The Ku Klux Klan, reinvigorated by the film Birth of a Nation, experienced explosive growth, swelling from a mere 5,000 members in 1918 to over 1 million by 1923. This wave of nativism and racial intolerance swept the nation, influencing immigration policy and fueling racial tensions in cities across the country. In this climate of America First and anti-immigrant sentiment, the image on a national coin, a proud Native American and a distinctly American bison, served as a powerful and resonant symbol of national identity, whether a progressive celebration of heritage or a more exclusionary vision of what it meant to be an American. It is against this vibrant and contradictory backdrop that the 1923 buffalo nickel was minted. The coin itself was the product of an earlier era of reform, conceived during the presidency of Theodore Roosevelt as part of a movement to beautify American coinage. Designed by the gifted sculptor James Earl Fraser, it was first struck in 1913. Fraser's creation was intended to be a distinctly American coin, a stark departure from the Greco-Roman-inspired designs that had previously dominated U.S. coinage. The obverse portrait is a composite of several Native American chiefs, a powerful tribute to a heritage that was being systematically marginalized. The reverse features Black Diamond, a bison who lived in the Central Park Zoo. Fraser understood that the buffalo was the true king of the American plains, a creature that embodied the spirit, resilience, and untamed nature of the country. By 1923, this design had been circulating for a decade and had become a beloved, iconic piece of Americana. For numismatists today, the 1923 Buffalo nickel is a fascinating study in rarity and value. Unlike many other years in the series, the coin was struck in substantial numbers. Over 35 million were produced at the Philadelphia Mint, and more than 6 million in San Francisco. This means that in lower circulated grades, the coin is relatively common and affordable for a beginning collector. Typical well-worn 1923 Buffalo nickel might be worth anywhere from $3 to $15, with the San Francisco issue often commanding a slight premium due to its lower mintage. However, as with any collectible, condition is king. Coins in about uncirculated or mint state grades become significantly harder to find, and their prices climb accordingly. You can expect to pay over $50 for an uncirculated example, with gems commanding hundreds of dollars. This is because the copper-nickel alloy used in these coins was notoriously hard on mint dies, and the striking process often resulted in weak details on the high points of the design, particularly the bison's horn. Finding a 1923 Buffalo nickel with a sharp, full strike and pristine surfaces is a genuine challenge. The pinnacle of value, however, is reserved for the finest known specimens. For the 1923 Philadelphia issue, the highest grades certified are MS-68, and examples at this level are exceedingly scarce. Such a coin, with its original mint luster and razor-sharp details, represents the very best of what was produced nearly a century ago. In fact, the record for a 1923 Buffalo nickel was set at auction, where an exceptional MS-67 example sold for a staggering $18,400. This is a testament to the enduring allure of the series. It reflects not just the coin's rarity, but the powerful connection it provides to a specific moment in American history. The 1923 Buffalo nickel is more than a piece of pocket change. It is a snapshot of a nation in flux, a tangible link to a time of booming industry, profound social anxiety, and an artistic vision that sought to capture the American spirit in a piece of metal small enough to fit in the palm of your hand. It is a history lesson, a work of art, and a treasure, all for 5 cents. Imagine holding a 1924 Buffalo nickel, a piece of American history, but one that carries the silent story of a manufacturing challenge. To understand the rarity and intrigue surrounding the 1924 issue, we must first step inside the United States Mint of the early 20th century. The process of creating a coin was, and still is, a fascinating marriage of art and industrial precision. It all begins with a master hub, a positive image of the design. This hub is used to create a master die, which is a negative impression. From that master die, working hubs are made, and from those, the working dies that actually strike the coins. These dies are the heart of the operation, carrying the intricate details of James Earl Fraser's iconic design, the stoic Native American chief on the obverse, and the powerful bison, black diamond, on the reverse. The planchets, which are the blank metal discs that become coins, are fed into a high-speed coining press. Here, immense pressure, usually around 40 to 60 tons, forces the metal of the planchet to flow into the recesses of the dies, transferring the design onto the coin. The story of the 1924 Buffalo nickel's rarity, however, isn't just about the normal minting process, it's about what went wrong. The 1920s were a challenging time for the mint's engraving department. The Buffalo nickel design, while beloved, was notoriously difficult to strike. It had a high, intricate relief that required immense pressure to bring up all the details. The alloy itself, a hard 75% copper and 25% nickel composition, was unforgiving to both the planchets and the dies. The result was a significant die breakage problem, and the mint was using 3 times the number of dies for the Buffalo nickel compared to the previous Liberty nickel design. This created immense pressure on the die-making department. Furthermore, the dies themselves were made with a slight convexity, which, combined with the hard metal, led to an issue called die abrasion. As the planchets were struck, tiny particles of metal would flake off and grind against the die surfaces, effectively smoothing out the fine details over time. The problem was so pronounced that the chief engraver at the time, Charles Barber, wrote to the mint director, explaining the difficulties his department faced. He noted that the dies were being worn out far too quickly, leaving a poor, faded-out impression on the coins. For the 1924 issue, this difficulty with the minting process manifested in a few specific errors and unique production circumstances. The most common ailment you will see on a 1924 Buffalo nickel is a weak strike. The pressure simply wasn't enough to force the metal into the deepest parts of the die, leading to a coin with soft, mushy details. Look closely at the bison's horn on the reverse. On a sharply struck coin, it should be clearly defined. On a 1924, it is frequently found lacking, as if it has been worn down, even on coins that have never been in circulation. Similarly, the hair on the top of the Indian's head on the obverse often appears flat and lacking detail. This wasn't a mistake made on a single die, it was a systemic issue. It is believed that the problem may have originated from an incomplete hubbing of the master die itself, which means the initial source of the design was not as sharp as it should have been, a surprising lapse in quality control. This created a ripple effect, causing all the coins struck in that year to exhibit a certain softness in the design. But the minting issues for the 1924 Buffalo nickel don't stop there. Due to the fragile nature of the dies, overpolishing was a common practice to extend their lifespan. This process could often remove details entirely. For instance, the designer's initial, the letter F for James Earl Fraser, is sometimes completely absent from the obverse of a 1924 nickel. This was not intended. It was simply a consequence of a die being polished one too many times to remove clash marks, which are impressions left by the dies striking each other without a planchet between them. Imagine the mint employee, under pressure to keep the presses running, using an emery stick to file down a die that was clashing and inadvertently erasing a crucial part of the design. The act was a common but costly solution. There were also instances of a retained cud on the obverse, a die break that forms a raised bump on the rim of the coin above the Indian's head. This is a more dramatic error, a result of the die literally cracking under the strain of the striking process. Now what does this mean for you, the collector, and the value of a 1924 Buffalo nickel? The condition of the coin is paramount, but the key factor to watch for is the quality of the strike. A fully struck coin with all its details present is a true rarity and commands a significant premium. The value spectrum is wide. For a well-worn, heavily circulated piece that might be missing its date due to wear, you might find it for a modest price. However, once you move into the higher grades, the numbers shift dramatically. The scarcest of the 1924 issues is the 1924S, minted in San Francisco, with a low mintage of just under 1.5 million coins. Only a few thousand are believed to have survived in all grades, making it a semi-key date in the series. But perhaps more challenging than finding a 1924S is finding any 1924 Buffalo nickel in true mint state condition. The inherent weakness of the strike on the 1924 dates means that many coins never had full detail to begin with, so finding a gem example, graded mint state 65 or higher, is an incredible feat. The 1924D, for example, is known to have fewer than 200 coins surviving in MS 65 or better. The price reflects this scarcity, with top-graded specimens, particularly from the San Francisco Mint, regularly fetching tens of thousands of dollars at auction, a stunning realization for a coin that was once just a humble piece of pocket change. The 1924 Buffalo nickel is more than a rare coin. It is a testament to the challenges and triumphs of early 20th century manufacturing, a piece of metal that carries the silent stories of the dies that struck it and the men who kept the presses running. Imagine holding a 1936 Buffalo nickel, a piece of American history that is far more than just 5 cents. To truly appreciate this coin, you have to understand the man who created it, a sculptor named James Earl Fraser. Fraser was born in 1876 in Winona, Minnesota, but his family soon moved to the Dakota Territory, where his father worked as a railroad engineer. This was the frontier, a world of vast prairies and the last remnants of the great Native American nations. Fraser's childhood was spent in an old railroad boxcar, sleeping on the floor wrapped in painted buffalo skins and learning to make arrowheads from his Sioux neighbors. This experience shaped his artistic vision profoundly. He would later study at the Art Institute of Chicago and then at the prestigious École des Beaux-Arts in Paris, where he worked under the renowned French sculptor Alexandre Falguière. His talent caught the eye of the legendary American sculptor Augustus St. Gaudens, and Fraser became his assistant. St. Gaudens was a giant in the field, and his influence on Fraser's early work was immense. But Fraser was not content to simply follow. He absorbed the lessons of the Beaux-Arts tradition while always carrying the memory of the American West in his heart. In 1913, the United States Mint held a competition for a new design for the 5-cent coin. The existing Liberty Head nickel had been in use for decades, and there was a growing movement to beautify American coinage. Fraser entered the contest, and his design was a bold departure from the classical allegories that had dominated coinage. Instead of a stylized liberty, he chose to depict a composite portrait of 3 Native American chiefs, Iron Tail, an Oglala Sioux, 2 Moons, a Cheyenne, and Big Tree, a Kiowa. He wanted to create a truly American image, one that honored the original inhabitants of the continent. On the obverse, you see a powerful, right-facing profile of a chief. His hair is braided, adorned with 2 eagle feathers at the crown, and the word liberty appears in small letters at the upper right edge. The date, 1936, sits at the lower left, and just below it you can see Fraser's own initial, the letter F. It was his signature, a mark of artistic pride. The reverse side is equally iconic. It features a bison, often called a buffalo, standing on a raised mound. Fraser drew his inspiration from a real bison named Black Diamond, a famous resident of the Central Park Zoo in New York City. The animal is depicted facing left, with an incredible sense of power and mass. Above the bison, the words, United States of America, arc gracefully, with the motto EPLUBUSUNUM nestled just beneath. At the bottom, the denomination, 5 cents, is inscribed on the mound. The design was so beloved that it was immediately popular with the public. However, the high relief of the design caused problems. The date and the denomination, being on raised surfaces, would wear away quickly in circulation. To solve this, the mint modified the reverse mid-year, removing the mound and placing the bison on a flat line, creating the Type 2 design. The 1936 issue is a Type 2, meaning it features this low relief, more practical version. The 1936 Buffalo nickel was struck in massive numbers, with over 118 million produced at the Philadelphia Mint alone. However, this does not mean every 1936 nickel is common. Its desirability, and thus its rarity in high grades, is a direct result of its artistic design. The coin's beauty made it a favorite among collectors from the moment it was released. People saved them, and a booming industry of coin boards and albums sprang up in the 1930s, encouraging the public to collect a complete set of dates. This intense collector demand, paradoxically, has made finding truly pristine, high-grade examples a challenge. Most 1936 nickels were saved in worn or circulated condition. Furthermore, the striking quality varies dramatically by mint. For example, the Denver Mint used worn, over-polished dies in 1936, which often resulted in weak strikes, particularly on the bison's horn and legs. This poor die condition is what created the famous and valuable 3½ legs era, where part of the buffalo's front leg appears missing. So what is a 1936 Buffalo nickel worth today? The value is entirely dependent on its condition and mint mark. A common, well-worn 1936 nickel from Philadelphia might be worth a few dollars, but step into the realm of mint state and the prices soar. A coin graded MS65, meaning it is a near-perfect, uncirculated example with no major blemishes, is much scarcer and can command a premium. The finest known examples of the 1936 Philadelphia issue, graded MS68, have sold at auction for over $37,000, a testament to the coin's enduring appeal and the difficulty of finding one in such immaculate condition. The 1936 S from San Francisco, with its lower mintage of just under 15 million, is also highly sought after. The 1936 D, despite a higher mintage, is often considered the most valuable of the three due to the poor die quality that resulted in so few high-grade survivors. A top-graded 1936D can fetch thousands of dollars, and the famous 3.5 legs variety has sold for over $20,000. This is the magic of the Buffalo nickel. It is a coin that tells a story of a nation, an artist, and an era, where the very challenges of minting have created treasures that collectors will chase for generations. Imagine holding a coin that is more than just a piece of currency. It is a silent witness to a century of American history. The Buffalo nickel, designed by James Earl Fraser and minted from 1913 to 1938, is one of the most beloved and iconic coins ever produced by the United States Mint. But beyond its striking imagery of a Native American chief and a powerful bison lies a fascinating world of provenance and ownership history, a trail of dramatic stories that rival any treasure hunt. To trace the journey of these rare nickels is to travel through time, following them from the government vaults of the early 20th century into the hands of kings, collectors, and sometimes into obscurity and rediscovery. While many Buffalo nickels are common, a select few have achieved legendary status due to their unique eras, exceptional condition, or the dramatic stories of their owners, making them some of the most valuable coins in the world. Perhaps the most dramatic provenance of all belongs not to Buffalo nickel, but to its predecessor, the 1913 Liberty Head nickel, a story that is deeply intertwined with the Buffalo nickel's legacy. 5 of these coins were secretly and illegally struck in 1913, the very year the Buffalo nickel was officially introduced, by a mint employee named Samuel W. Brown. He kept them hidden for 5 years until the statute of limitations expired, and then he cleverly advertised for them, offering a $600 bounty to drum up interest before displaying them at a convention. They were sold to Colonel E.H.R. Green, a notorious collector, and after his death, they were separated, passing through the hands of King Farouk of Egypt and other elite collectors. One of these, the famous Walton nickel, was tragically lost for decades. Its owner, George O. Walton, died in a car accident on his way to a coin show in 1962, and the coin was mistakenly judged a fake by experts and returned to his family. It sat in a closet for over 40 years until 2003, when a nationwide search and a public offer of $1 million led the family to bring it to the Anna World's Fair of Money, where a panel of experts confirmed its authenticity. The Walton nickel was finally sold for $4.2 million in 2022, a testament to its incredible provenance and the enduring allure of a lost treasure found. The Buffalo nickel series itself also boasts a fascinating provenance, highlighted by the discovery of 6 special strike coins from 1927 in 1989. These were not ordinary coins. They featured unique satiny matte surfaces reminiscent of proofs, and their origin was a complete mystery. Coin dealer Robert Rare discovered them in a mixed lot, and Heritage Auctions co-chairman James Holcrun also acquired some, recognizing their extraordinary texture. For years, no one knew why they were struck or for what purpose. Experts like John Albanaz of NGC noted they looked like proofs, but without documentation, they were classified as specimen strikings. The mystery began to unravel when numismatic researchers found that 6 of these coins may have originated from the estate of John Sunnock, the former chief engraver of the Mint, who was known for experimenting with new processes. An entry in the 1928 report of the director of the Mint mentioned a new chromium plating plant for dyes, and this process left telltale microcracking, a dry riverbed look, on the coins. This unique provenance, tied to an experimental mint process and the legacy of a chief engraver, makes these 6 coins some of the most fascinating and valuable Buffalo nickels, with only 6 known to exist, each valued in the tens of thousands of dollars. Other rare Buffalo nickels have equally compelling ownership stories. Consider the unique 1913 Buffalo nickel struck on a United States $5 gold planchet, which surfaced in 2019, having been previously unknown to the numismatic community. It was discovered by a dealer, Salvana Dujanova, who brought it to a coin show for authentication, and experts like Fred Wunbug confirmed it was authentic and stunning. The coin had a test cut on the reverse, likely made decades ago to determine its metal content, adding to its mystique. It was first auctioned in a holder that described it as authentic but ungruddubed, realizing a shockingly low $78,000, but was later submitted to NGC and certified as a genuine coin in an AU-53 holder, instantly elevating its value and prestige. This coin's provenance is unique, a one-of-a-kind artifact that some experts believe may have been a piece de caprice made for a mint official, and it is now worth an estimated $400,000. The value of these rarities spans a vast spectrum. A common, worn buffalo nickel from a non-key date might only be worth a few dollars, but a coin with a famous provenance, like the 1913 Liberty Head nickel, can reach over $4 million. The journey of these coins, from mint to mint, from collector to collector, and from obscurity to fame, is what makes numismatics so captivating. Each coin carries its own story, and in the world of rare coins, the provenance is often just as valuable as the metal itself.